Matt once again. We're about to another video. This is another paid request, this time from Peter. Thank you so much for that. And it is a request to do a commentary on Evil Dead 2. So for anyone who wants to request pretty much any type of videos or topics, reactions, re-reviews, randomness, out of the blueness, pretty much anything, feel free. You just send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. If not, no worries, but if so, thank you so much. I will do my best to get to it as soon as I can. And let's get right into it. 3, 2, 1, pressing play. This film contains scenes which may be too intense for persons under the age of 17. But this is the company Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, and them made up. So as we're getting the opening here, the funny thing with the Evil Dead films, I found them backwards. What I mean by that is this. The first time I ever saw one was Army of Darkness. It was, back then, VHS was so popular that they were everywhere, including gas stations, grocery stores. So at the local gas station, they had VHS to rent. And, oh, there's a guy with a chainsaw for a hand, and it's called Army of Darkness. Okay, I'll check it out. Enjoyed it, had fun with it. Never knew for years that it was a sequel, and it was a part 3. I just thought it was its own film, because, there's no part 3 to the title. It's not called Evil Dead 3. So, okay. It wasn't until years and years later I found a Fangoria magazine. I forget what it's called, like the best horror films. It had Jason Voorhees on the cover, and I'm flipping through it. Really cool book. And I come across Evil Dead 2. Wait, that guy looks familiar. It's a picture of him covered in blood. I'm like, what's the deal with this? And, okay, it's like a striking image. And I'm reading a review of it, and it's describing stuff about a guy with a chainsaw for a hand. I'm like, wait a minute. That looks like the guy from Army of Darkness. And I had also seen him in Moontrap. Wait, this is a seat. Wait. Not only was there 2 more movies before Army of Darkness? And then I saw Evil Dead 2, because I couldn't find Evil Dead 1. I saw Evil Dead 2 on VHS, and was blown away. And then I saw the first one. And so, yeah, I saw these films backwards. But I enjoy all 3. All 3... If I gave star ratings, probably this would be 4.5 out of 5. 1 and 3 would be like 4 out of 5. But I highly enjoy the trilogy, to the fact that I try to make my own fan version, where I try to link all 3 together. But I made a lot of mistakes. I think I uploaded to my BitChute, but there's mistakes littered in there. It's embarrassing, but I tried. Now, yeah, this is sort of a truncated version of the first movie in a way, where it just is confusion of, is this a remake? Is this a sequel? Well, it's intended to be a sequel, because it gets to a point where the force, the evil, goes through the door and hits Bruce Campbell, which is very similar to the ending of the first film. I guess they could not get the footage from the first film because of different companies. And then I remember hearing that Greg Nicotero, the end of KMB Effects, which those 3 guys worked on this and then would later form KMB Effects. Craig Nicotero, Howard Berger, and Robert Kurtzman. Craig Nicotero on the commentary for this mentioned that they were going to film the other characters, and some stuff was shot. But I don't know if it's just one of those where they wanted to save money and they said, well, you have to hire all those actors and then you have to recreate stuff. Well, if we just have these 2 actors, they'll save time. Honestly, I think they should have went with the effort, because it just makes things a bit more confusing. So again, it's very easy to make one think that this is just a remake instead of a sequel, but technically it's supposed to be a sequel. Yeah, that's why a lot of people try to do fan edits where they take the ending of the first, they cut this out, and then when again the evil force goes through, and even when you do that, there's inconsistencies like the bodies from the first movie of his friends and sister. Because people forget Ash had a sister. Those bodies disappear. In the first film, the arms went through the door. Now there's no arms through the door. Again, when you try to link the two, it's like with all the films, there's all sorts of inconsistencies that if that bothers you, you would go insane. But the film is, I think when I first saw this, the first 5 minutes I was a bit leery because I honestly thought the first 5 minutes the acting wasn't that good in this movie. Like Bruce Campbell when he was like, "Hey, baby." I didn't. The first 5 or so minutes, I'm like, "Oh God, what's this about?" What? Again, I had only seen Army of Darkness, but it was. I think when he cuts the girlfriend's head off, and then I went, "Oh shit, that's pretty violent," and then it just kept escalating and escalating and escalating, and this is a movie that's a wealth of creativity, inventiveness, and just a combustible ignition of energy with the camera work. Again, the way the head rolls into frame and the camera settles down. Again, like the first film, this shows that you could do a lot with a low budget. That's why, there's so many people, the directors that complain about budget. I understand that to a point, but you look at what they did in the first Evil Dead. You look what they did with this film. This film, they had, what, a $3 million budget? To me, that's a lot, but to a lot of people, that's, especially low-budget filmmakers, that's, decent or low, or the same. And this is what I'm talking about. This is like the ending of the first movie. Only they redid it because there's no holes in the door. See, boom, now you're supposed to be in Evil Dead 2. So again, I have a DVD-R somewhere where I put the three films together, and I usually watch that because I want to have it be like Ash really did go through all of these events in all three of these movies, like in more of a consistent manner. And that's what I mean, like that whole bit there with, that's when I'm like, the movie hooked me. When he gets thrust back and you have this weird, he's going upside down, and I'm like, what the hell is that? It's really, I've never seen that type of shot done before. Even to this day, how, he's going backward. I'm like, what the hell? Again, that just, and even when he falls to the ground and the camera twirls down POV into the puddle of water. Again, I had not seen the first Evil Dead by the time I saw this, so I was just really marveling. Because you saw a bit less of that camera work in Army of Darkness. You still saw some, but I would say less compared to... Well, you still saw some, to be fair. I do think it's a bit less compared to the first two. And I would say, of the three films, I think growing up, Army of Darkness was my favorite, but I would say it's Evil Dead 2, then the first one, and then Army of Darkness. Because I do enjoy Army of Darkness, but I do think the lack of horror element... I mean, they try to have horror, but it's definitely more comedy action. I would like to see a bit more hardcore horror in Army of Darkness. I do find that a bit more appealing. And that's why I think Evil Dead 2 is the best, because it's a combination of both worlds. Where you have the horror, the gore, the craziness, the inventiveness of Evil Dead 1, as well as the more comedic elements, and the more step towards the Ash of the one-liners. But this is when one of the criticism I have for the Ash versus Evil Dead show, I said, wow, I mean, he's a kind of an unlikable dick on the show. And I can excuse that for Army of Darkness because in my frame of mind, he went through all this shit, Evil Dead 1 and 2, and this is all supposed to be this onslaught of his sister dying, his friends dying, all the shit that happens into this, cutting his hand off, being possessed, and then he goes back in time, then these guys stone him, then they shackle him, then they throw him down a fucking pit. I'm like, he should be pissed off at these guys. He should be like, fuck you guys. I'm not doing shit for you. You do your own goddamn self. So what an Army of Darkness, to me, it's understandable. And yet he makes mistakes, but he is able to overcome it, and something more successful overcomes where the two kingdoms have joined because of his mistake. It wasn't his purpose, and people did die, sadly, but something better came out of it. That wasn't the case for me in Ash vs. Evil Dead. He screwed up. A lot of innocent people died because he screwed up. But on top of that, nothing really better came of it because then it led to a future where he woke up and it's a fucking apocalypse. And I'm like, wow, nothing he's done was worth a shit. It was pointless. And people say that's part of the character. I don't see that character in this movie. Again, I guess that's where me and Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell differ. I actually enjoy this type of effect. I know it's low budget effect, but the model shot, I don't even know if you want to call it a model shot, but I enjoy it. This not so much. I mean, this doesn't hold up. I just use it because it's the low budget. Because you could tell he's not in the scene with all this smoke coming in. But it's very quick, and I let it go. Because again, with the amount of crazy inventiveness they put into it, they more than make up for it. I mean, when I first saw this, I'm like, I had never seen camera work like this done with this POV of the Force, and not Star Wars The Force. I did. You saw a little bit of this in Army of Darkness in the barn sequence, or the windmill, I should say, the windmill scene, and then he's being chased in the woods, and Army of Darkness. But this is more so here, like chasing right behind the car, and he got hit in the face with a branch. I guarantee Sam Raimi did that. I'm like, what the fuck? He went through the windshield, and you see the POV going through the windshield, and then the Force breaks through the back window, back glass. Again, it gets this. After that first 5 minutes, it just goes, and it's almost relentless. And you just feel so bad for Ash in this. Now, if you look at the ceiling, a lot of the ceiling is missing. As because the ceiling wasn't done, it wasn't built. So you're seeing all these holes in the ceiling. They might have lowered it for the Blu-ray. For the Blu-ray, it seemed like they lowered it a little bit, so it looks a little bit better, to be fair, on the Blu-ray. Yeah, I guess in the Blu-ray they did lower it a little bit. Like so that you don't see it as apparent compared to the VHS tape. But yeah, when it's chasing Ash, you would see like the ceiling wasn't done and finished and built. But that was an interesting cut because you have the real location of the cabin, and then you had to have a cut where now they're in, I think they shot it at a school or something, a gymnasium, something like that. And how they linked those two together. I also find it funny that Ash was able to, he was so quick, he hid over the evil force. The evil force like, fuck this shit, and then leaves. He goes back home. Another funny thing, This guy on the right trying to open up the door, if you watch him, he never opens the door. And that is Robert Tapert, one of the producers. See, back there, he's still trying to get that door open. He can't get the door open. That's why he stayed there. It's like, what the fuck is this guy doing back there by the plane? It's like he can't. Yeah, the cut saved him. And that was on the commentary track where they made fun of that. But that's producer Robert Tapper behind there. And then these two, you have Sarah Berry as Annie, and then the other is, oh, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Damn it, I can't remember his name. Yeah, sadly, I can't remember his name. But I know that the girl's name is Sarah Berry as Annie. I know when the first Evil Dead came out, it did fairly well, and then Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, Rob Tapert, the three of them wanted to go on to hopefully greener pastures, and they did Crime Wave, and Crime Wave was a big bomb. It was a bad experience making the film. It didn't do well critically. It flopped. Just everyone was miserable after the that film. And so they thought, well, damn, we need another successful movie. Well, people are yearning for Evil Dead 2. So they were with another company. It might have been NBC Pictures, but it languished. And then they got help from Stephen King, because Stephen King was a big fan of the first movie. Stephen King gave a glowing review of the first movie. They used that in all the publicity of the first movie. Many of the trailers for the first movie was Stephen King, and this is what he said about it: the most ferociously original horror film of the year. And so Stephen King got them in touch with Dino De Laurentiis, because Dino De Laurentiis was working with Stephen King, because Stephen King was directing Maximum Overdrive around this time, because that film came out in '86. And Sam Raimi wanted to do what he did in Army of Darkness. He wanted to do for Evil Dead 2, like the medieval dead. But either Dino De Laurentiis or someone else said, well, we kind of want you to do similar to the first movie, not so much this whole night thing. So then they did this where, okay, it's the cabin in the woods, but what more can we do? So Scott Spiegel came in and helped write. Scott Spiegel, he would go on to direct his own films like Intruder, which is a pretty fun slasher film in the late 80s. He did From Dusk Till Dawn 2, which I like. I think Robert Patrick does a good job in that. But Scott Spiegel, I remember the first time I watched this, I sat there and I went, what the fuck is this? What the fuck? Like, the bitch is crazy and dancing and taking her head off, and she looks all fucked up, and Barbie doll from hell, half naked, like claymation titties. But it's inventive, it's creative, and it's that, I, I like it. I mean, and just the constant torture that this guy goes through. I didn't. I like Bruce Campbell in the first two Evil Dead films. I liked him in Army of Darkness. I liked his fun one-liners. But now people just go, that's all. That's all Ash is. I'm like, well, yes and no. Ash became popular, you just say, the way he is because of Army of Darkness. But to say that's all Ash is, I'm like, well, what about the Ash in the first and second movie? elements of that could be left intact as well. Again, Army of Darkness, I used to use the character behaving that way because of all the turmoil he went through in these two. Because technically, he's gone through all this in a matter of a few nights, probably not even a week. And here's the physical comedy. These guys being a big fan of the Three Stooges, which there's some nods to. You saw nods to that in the first movie as well as this. In the first movie, and the finale, when the blood is filling up the light bulb, the blood is coming out of the wall sockets. That was an ode to the Three Stooges, "Up Plumbing We Will Go." Because those same shots, but in the Three Stooges short, it was water. Now, of course, Bruce Campbell had that wort shed, which is a very different, weird tone. I know Bruce Campbell, he would later work with Kurt Russell on Escape from L.A. And Bruce Campbell tells a story about the first time he met Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell came up and asked, "Say wort shed. Can you say wort shed?" And Bruce is like, "What?" Because him and I think Kurt Russell's son as well, they were fans of Evil Dead 2, and I think maybe Kurt Russell was inspired to ask that because of his son, Wyatt Russell. I could be wrong, but that was the talk of the first conversation they had with each other. Again, this insanity of just the variety of effects used. Claymation. Here you get a puppetry where you have someone underneath moving it back and forth, and hey, let's have a headless body attack someone with a chainsaw. Yeah, just go for it. That's, I think, the appeal of this movie is the insane, not only creativity, but just the gonzo balls out, go for it attitude that you don't see a lot nowadays. Which I don't understand why you don't see that just balls out way of doing it. And then some try to do it with CGI, and it just doesn't have the charm and the energy, in my opinion, as effects in this movie does, for example. Now you see Freddy Krueger's glove up there above the door, while we see the shadow of Ash killing chainsawing his girlfriend's head. But yeah, up top right here, you see Freddy Krueger's glove. And Sam Raimi and Wes Craven kind of played tag for a while, because in the first Evil Dead, in the basement, you had a poster of The Hills of Eyes ripped. And Sam Raimi did that because he saw the original Hills of Eyes, and there was a Jaws poster ripped. So he thought, well, maybe Wes Craven was saying, well, Jaws is a horror film, but we're the real horror. And then, thus, the Jaws poster was ripped. So, we're going to say, we respect the Hills of Eyes of Wes Craven, but we're going to rip that poster because now we're the real horror. But it was a friendly nod. And then Wes Craven showed Evil Dead in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. It's what Heather Langenkamp is watching. I remember watching Nightmare on Elm Street for years and never knew what that movie was on TV. Lo and behold, when I first saw The Evil Dead, that scene came up and I said, that's the movie from A Nightmare on Elm Street. Holy shit. And then Sam Raimi put a nod to Wes Craven with the Freddy Krueger glove in there. I know now there's talks of another Evil Dead film, but it's not going to have Bruce Campbell because he's retired as the Ash character. And I'm like, I just don't... The remake. I didn't care for the remake. The gore was good, but that's all I saw that was good in it. I didn't care about the characters. I don't think it has much creativity as these films do. Like, these first two films have gore, but they also have an insane amount of creativity with the camera work and the other supernatural stuff that happens. Like here with the rocking chair going back and forth, or all the appliances and the deer head and the goose lamp, laughing at him, and when he's looking in the mirror and his image, his double, we just cut out girlfriend with the chainsaw. I think that's coming up here. Yeah. Again, the creativity in the first film, he touched the mirror and it was water. And then here, with this other him, right? Boom. I don't think so. We just cut up our girlfriend with the chainsaw. Does that sound fine? This stuff was, none of that was in the remake. I'm not saying you have to copy that scene. I'm just talking about, it forgot the supernatural, all that creativity, as well as the camera work and everything else that made the Evil Dead work. It was more than just gore. There's plenty of films where just, The Prowler has gore. I'm sorry, it doesn't mean I'm a fan of The Prowler. Because to me, that's the only thing worth going, is the gore. It had nothing else to me. Here, it's the rapid fire pace, Bruce Campbell's performance, likable character, really feel bad and sorry for him, easy to root for, and just that gonzo, you're not knowing what is going to happen next mentality, where, fuck it, anything goes, pretty much. Yeah, let the main character's hand get possessed, so he's got to cut it off. That's not something you saw every day, especially in this time period. And then his own hand attacking him and giving the middle finger. Give me back my hand. And I thought Bruce Campbell did a good job in this. People don't like it because it's not Ash from Army of Darkness. I think there's more to it than that. I really do. And yet the movie goes at a quick pace. I mean, it's only an hour and 20 some minutes. I mean, we're less than an hour left of the movie. I mean, it's an hour and 24 minutes. 26 minutes have gone by. You also got to take into account there's the end credits. That's at least, I don't know, 4 minutes, give or take, at least. So, can't do math now. I don't know, maybe 50 minutes left. No, probably more than that. A little over 50 minutes. But still. Now here we have our two hits. Now, I don't know who called them in and how they found out about this bridge being fucked up. It's not like anyone else uses this bridge. Like, who called them? Did the fucking bear in the woods call them? Did a snake call them? Like, who the hell called these guys to let them know to put this one sign out? As if no one would notice a big fucking bridge being, completely wrecked like that, but... Now these two, you got Dan Hicks on the left, and you have Cassie Wesley on the right as Bobby Joe. Cassie Wesley on the right, she was in a lot of TV shows. One Life to Live, Guiding Light. She was on One Life to Live like for over 10, maybe even 20 years, like for a long time. So she stayed busy with soap opera. Now Dan Hicks on the left, Sally, he has passed away. Dan Hicks as Jake, the redneck. Which I always thought he did a good job in this. Bobby Joe! Yeah. Dan Hicks, he was in Darkman. In Darkman, he was the guy working with Durant, where he had the bum leg that would then become like a machine gun. He was also a character in the slasher film Intruders, directed by Scott Spiegel. He was one of the big characters in that movie. He did a solid job in that. And Dan Hicks would pop up from time to time, and yeah, sadly, he passed away in 2020. So rest in peace to Dan Hicks. Again, they're speeding up the camera, but at times, but the physical comedy Bruce Campbell had to have to bash yourself against, flip yourself onto the floor. Just, every single fucking thing smash into his head. And yet that zany slapstick Three Stooges, the horror film version of a Three Stooges short. I mean, really, that's kind of what this film is at times. And I'm a big Three Stooges fan, so I appreciate that. I mean, Sam Raimi's such a big Three Stooges fan, there's even something called Faked Shemps, which is an ode to Three Stooges when Shemp passed away. And the Three Stooges shit, well, oh shit, there's two of us. We need to finish this stuff with Shemp, but we don't have Shemp. So we use old footage and then add in new scenes. And then we'll have someone that looks like Shemp, but we just film them from behind. That's called Faked Shemps. And Sam Raimi uses it in movies like this where it's someone that a stand-in, pretty much. Yeah, I remember our first time saw this, I went, fuck, man, he's cutting his own hand off. I was like, oh, okay, that's why, again, it was interesting first time watching this, seeing the birth of the Ash from Army of Darkness, because that was a film I watched over and over again, and seeing, oh, so that's how he lost his hand, and oh, that's how he got his chainsaw hand. Which I always wish he would use more, that chainsaw hand. Because it's such a cool, iconic look. And that's one of the things that bugs me about Army of Darkness, is he uses one time. That should have been something that would at the end. I think in retrospect, in Army of Darkness, his hand fucks up. And all he can do, he puts on that chainsaw hand. And he just wrecks house against these skeletons. And you could work with skeletons because there's no blood. Instead of using a sword, boom, gets the chainsaw. He's sawing this skeleton, that skeleton, the head here, skeleton in half, legs, arms, like just chainsawing all these skeletons apart. That would have been, I think, even more worthwhile at the end of Army of Darkness. Maybe I'm alone in that. But in retrospect, instead of just him using the sword and the metal hand, the metal hand gets fucked up or it gets taken off and carried away. Gotta use the chainsaw hand. Boom. You get a taste of it at the beginning. Think of the whole marketing of Army of Darkness is him with that chainsaw hand and he's only using it at the beginning. And that's one of the mistakes I think Army of Darkness has. I still like the film, but again, it's one of the... I wish it was more horror, and I wish stuff like that occurred. And then he could make a new hand and go back to the present time. Or they got the hand back and replaced it. Hey, you found my hand. Again, I like claymation. It's a fun... special effect tactic that doesn't get used much anymore because now they use CGI. But claymation just has a certain, still a yes, it's not real, but it's still a certain physicality to it. Piss at it. And that's practical effect. Again, like, it just... How many times do you see a movie where your own hand is playing keep away from you and giving you the middle finger and the mouse traps? Again, that's part of the fun with this movie being in this cabin, is that literally anything can happen. You shoot the hand, but then just this tidal wave of blood. You little sucker. This tidal wave of blood and then... bile, whatever the hell the black stuff is supposed to be, just... I'm assuming what they did was they put like a pad on his back, so he's kind of laying down, and then in that first splash here, I didn't just... That's probably done in reverse when it sets back to the wall. blow your butts to kingdom come. Yeah, you see his face is less dirty here than it was previously. Again, if you're a continuity freak, these films will make you lose your fucking mind. See, that's a cool effect. That demon deer head. That's a really neat effect. And yeah, this whole idea of... And I love the camera angles used where each one gets their moment to shine. The Popeye laugh on the goose lamp. Again, the way the angles are used. And like literally driving them insane. If you played the video game Evil Dead Regeneration, you actually get to shoot these things. Because there was... I know there's a new game coming out, but there's 3 main video games. 1 for PlayStation 1, 2 for PlayStation 2. And I've played all 3 of them. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm laughing because it's just this whirlwind of creatures were laughing at him, and he's just laughing along. But as soon as he hears one noise from the door, he just shoots. It could be anybody. It could be the fucking mailman for all he knows. It's like, why didn't you shoot the fucking deer head? And also just how long it takes for him to notice someone is coming. Like, he only notices it when the guy's on screen, and you're thinking, well, wait a minute. That's like, someone's over here. If someone's over here, I don't notice until they're here. Like, no, I would have noticed them over here, not just until they're in frame. Again, he doesn't see anybody, doesn't see anybody, doesn't see anybody, doesn't see anybody, and then boom. He's doing pretty good one-handed. That's not fair, you beating up a one-handed guy. That's not a fair fight. Again, you just... The constant amount of shit that you just feel bad for this guy where... Again, in the realm of this being a sequel, his sister and his friends were possessed. He had to kill his sister and friends, as well as his girlfriend. Then he gets possessed. Then he gets unpossessed. Then he gets thrown through a fucking windshield of his car. Then he's trying to be made insane by all this shit. In the first movie and this movie. He had to cut his own fucking hand off. Then these people are beating the fuck out of him. They slam his ass down the fucking stairs. No wonder he was so pissed off in Army of Darkness. Again, that's why in Army of Darkness I can... And then in Army of Darkness, again, they throw stones at him. They arrest him. They shackle him when he did nothing wrong. They throw his ass down a pit to be killed by a demon or impaled by spikes. Of course, when he gets out, he treats him like shit. I would do the same thing. So that's why I don't consider him a dick in Army of Darkness. I'm like, he's not... He's acting like I would. If I went through all that shit, and then they did all that shit to me at the beginning of Army of Darkness, I'd treat him like shit too. I'd be like, fuck you guys. You threw my ass down a pit and tried to impale me and die from a demon, and you threw stones at me, and I did nothing to you. Fuck you guys. And that's just, again, the beginning of Army of Darkness, let alone all the shit he went through in these movies. I mean, that's the way I look at it. But yeah, the video games, there was Evil Dead, Hail to the King for PlayStation 1, A Fistful of Boomstick for PS2, and then Regeneration for PS2. There might be other games, but those are the three that pop up in my head. Again, I know there's a new one coming out. I liked... Okay, I played the first game. I was really hyped for it because I grew to love these three Evil Dead movies. In retrospect, the first Evil Dead game, Bruce Campbell is solid as the voice. And his one-liners and his dialogue. But that's a really awful game in terms of gameplay. There's some nice looking artwork in the background because it's done like the first Resident Evil game, or even the second Resident Evil game, where you're going around, it's fixed camera angles, and you have some nice artwork for the set in the background. But I'll get back to that in a minute. Sorry, I'm moving around. My back hurts for some reason. But that's Ted Raimi. Which Ted Raimi went through a lot of hell in his makeup. Just pouring and pouring with sweat every single day. But yeah, that is Ted Raimi. Sam Raimi's brother. At the end, it's like this guy doesn't get any fucking room to breathe. This Ash character. I did in the first two Evil Dead films. He's just a regular guy who's a po schmool at the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, even in the first movie, yeah, he found the tape recorder, but they all kind of found it, and it was the other guy, Scott, that wanted to keep playing the tape. Ash was with the girl saying, "Yeah, let's shut the tape off." That whole eyeball dad still gets me. Again, that creativity, like, let's have the eyeball pop out, the POV of the eyeball going into the girl's mouth. And then the fact that she swallowed it. Did you hear that? Whoop. But getting back to the video game, the first PlayStation game, Evil Dead Hail to the King, the issues with the game is, number one, the enemies keep respawning over and over and over again. To the point it becomes not fun at all. It just becomes not a fun game because every 5 seconds, 10 seconds, a new enemy will pop up. And it would hit you, you hit it. It would hit you, you hit it. And then your chainsaw would always run out of gas. It would run out of gas quick. You had to pick up fucking mushrooms. Yes, mushrooms. And then use another device to change it into gasoline. Same with health. So you always have to pick up mushrooms for health and for gas. And again, just the respawning enemies just got ridiculous. They completely overdid it. And then it was one of those where disc 1, you had to change the disc to disc 2. And honestly, the game could have been on one disc. But that's how it was back then. So then you get to Fistful of Boomstick. Fistful of Boomstick to me would have made a great movie. I wish they made that instead of Ash vs. Evil Dead. Because the Fistful of Boomstick is fun. I like the even the story that played out, where you go back in time in the town you grew up with. So there's different time periods of Dearborn, Michigan that you're going through. And you have going through areas like a museum, and you're wrecking house on this town, and it's not Ash's fault. It's some this other asshole that got the book, and Ash is there to save the day, be heroic. But that's not how people look at Ash. But that's how I did in these movies. Because like, oh yeah, a male hero for a horror film. That was a nice change of pace. I always liked this. This is a really cool Deadite design for this guy. Again, the way his face looks, I always looked really cool. This is where he eats the hair. But yeah, that design, again. And I know there is a shot that you can find pictures of online where you see this creature's head cut off here. He cuts it off, but it's all done in shadow and silhouette. But there are online pictures where we did see him with his head, this part cut off, and he's running around, and he had like a really tiny brain. See, like you don't really see that. It's all done in shadow. I don't know why that was cut out. I guess they thought the effect wasn't good, but I'm like, there's some other effects in this movie that were not as good either, but now the reason it's green blood was because they thought that if they used different color blood, they would get an R rating. And they didn't. The MPA still said it's unrated. Which is ridiculous. I mean, I've seen countless films in the past 10 years more gory than this movie. I'm not even kidding. I mean, Hostel. I would even say Hostel is more gory than this. As in terms of the bit with the lady with her eyeball and eyeball hanging out, and I mean, you could technically say Rambo 4 and Rambo 5 were gorier than this, and those were rated R. Hacksaw Ridge, Braveheart, I mean, Passion of the Christ. Many films more violent and gory, but they got an R rating. So yeah, I don't understand that. But the MPAA has always been inconsistent. That's why you don't really hear a lot about the MPAA nowadays. Maybe because a lot of people knew to get away from their bullshit. I always loved the way this was shot. These weird angles. I don't know how you describe it. I didn't just showcase it with sound effects, and again, these weird angles. I don't know how you describe it. It's like, I always liked that looked like a tombstone above them. Ash and Annie. And this is Ash trying to explain something, trying to force his way into our world. I don't know how he came up with that idea, but yeah, I always thought it looked really cool, and it just very, very solid direction. This build up, the door opening, you have this light. What is it? It's mysterious. It's create intrigue as to what is behind that door. No shit, it's in there. I thought it was behind you. I thought it was in your underwear. Okay, Farmer John with your overalls. But yeah, rest in peace, Dan Hertz. He did a good job in this. I thought Sarah Berry did a good job too as Annie, the daughter of the professor. This girl here, there she is. Yeah, I thought she did a good job, Sarah Berry. And that character actually makes an appearance in Hail to the King. Does it think gets to a point where you're in the basement of the cabin? Was it the cabin or somewhere else? But I know at one point you come across her because Ash goes, Annie? And it's her with the knife in her back, I believe, and you have to fight her. But again, that first PlayStation game, it's just shitty how you fight. And again, the gameplay, the controls. I mean, maybe if you're a hardcore fan of Resident, I mean, I like Resident Evil 1 and 2, but I do think they are better games than the that. But I mean, I could play it because I'm a Evil Dead fan, but it's not something I would be aching to play again anytime soon. But Fistful of Boomstick is fun, and Regeneration is entertaining as well. Although the bad thing about Regeneration, it really has no ending. You and the little guy, voiced by Ted Raimi, you defeat the bad guy, you go through a portal, and it seems like there should be more, but the game just ends. I'm like, where's the ending? Where's the finale? Where's the satisfying triumph of my journey? There isn't. So again, Evil Dead Regeneration just, it's hard to replay it for me. Because I'm like, what's the point when you get to this ending is not, it's such a non-ending. If you don't believe me, look it up. Evil Dead Regeneration ending. It's like, what the fuck? With all the cool effects, I do think this was the cheapest looking effect. That's supposed to be Annie's father, Professor Noby. And yeah, I always thought that was kind of the cheapest looking effect, where a guy's like, ooh, with the face. Again, just with all the other creative Deadite makeup and the hand, how that was done, and even the creature at the end, the creature that Ted Raimi plays, just much more creative and fun and inventive, while, again, that ghost is just, again, kind of weak. I mean, it's low budget, so I'd give it leniency, but still, if someone were to ask what's my least favorite effect, probably the way the ghost of Annie's father looks. I hear Bobby Joe is not going to make it. The trees are going to grab her. Which I am surprised Sam Raimi even went there again with the trees. Not nearly as graphic as the first film. Because in the first film, there's a scene where a character gets kind of raped by the trees. And at least what it seems like. And he got a lot of shit for it. I know Sam Raimi regrets doing that. So I'm just surprised he even went anywhere near a tree thing again with this. But as you can tell, it's much more... I don't know, it just... It's not nearly as sexual as in the first film. Which I'm fine with. It's not like... That's honestly a scene in the first Evil Dead that I could do without. But I mean, this is a pretty good stunt to be dragged all the way. Person doing that, give credit to. Had to be dragged all the way there. And really good POV. Really made the camera work come alive. And then nice editing too. Going into the tree and then to smash this. Again, if you go mad with continuity, if the first film is in canon, the book should be burned because he burned the book in the first movie. But that's not the case in here. And then you have these pages. The hero from the sky prophesies to destroy the evil. And the reason is because he hasn't been born yet. And here he is, and that's the prophecy where he's going to go back in time. And in Army of Darkness, yes, he does make a mistake where he says the wrong words. Brado nitto, nickel, nickel, nipple. Klaatu brada. Okay then. I said the words, I did. It's a funny moment, it's a funny line. But it does create the army of the dead and people get killed. But then Bruce Campbell, he realizes he made a mistake. He rises up. Go home and cry to mama. And something good came out of it. Where these two kingdoms that were fighting each other and killing each other, they finally put away their differences and joined. And by the end, a grander kingdom was created because of Ash. If Ash had not accidentally done that, then these kingdoms would not have joined together and have peace. They would still be at war even after Ash left. If Ash got the book back, perfectly fine, they did it, boom, the evil's gone, then these two kingdoms would be fighting each other and killing each other. But Ash, apparently I'm the only guy that looks at this stuff this way, because Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell don't. And Ash vs. Evil Dead, I'm just not a fan of. I was very, very disappointed. And the first episode just really bothered me. It really bothered me with the way the evil comes back because Ash got high and he read the book to impress a girl. And then people are like, well, Matt, come on, it's not a big deal. He did that in Army of Darkness. But yeah, there's a reason for it. And I thought it was handled better. And I thought, instead, in Ash vs. Evil Dead, a lot of innocent people die because Ash fucked up. And Ash doesn't say that he ever really feels responsible for it, at least to me, to my liking. And it doesn't really lead up to a big payoff. Again, by the end of the second or third season, I forget how many, he stops the evil, but then it's years later, and it's an apocalypse of the evil, so apparently it didn't fucking matter. And then he's off on a journey again, only Road Warrior land, and then the show's canceled. So, to me, I'm like, fuck that. That's just my opinion. Dan Harris, Bobby Joe. I don't know, just the way he says it, he's committed to it. Bobby Joe! Why, you girl? Bobby Joe! Bobby Joe! God damn it! So committed, like, Bobby Joe! Where are you, girl? I just really committed to it. And this was an interesting thing of the script where you think he's going to get possessed. But no, it's our lead hero getting possessed again. And this sort of, well, wait a minute, our lead hero is now possessed? And I knew what was going to come because I had seen Army of Darkness, so I wasn't really in that frame of mind. I'm like, huh, interesting. I know he's not going to stay this way, so where is this going? But I wonder if you first saw this and you knew nothing about the movie. You could easily, you could easily lead to the conclusion, oh, he's possessed, and then Annie is going to take over, and she's going to kill him, and she's going to be the one to save the day. Because a lot of movies would go that route, honestly. But thankfully, that's not how it goes. Damn, she got that dagger up, high and ready to stab a motherfucker. Stab someone in the face. Stab any motherfucker look at me funny. Stab any motherfucker get in my way. I should mention that before Evil Dead, there was a short movie called Within the Woods, and it Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and them made a lot of these little short films when they were kids for fun because they had the passion for it, and one of them was that. And in that story, Bruce Campbell gets possessed, and the girl stops him, but then I forget it. It's been a while since I've seen that. Hit the wrong guy. You got blood on your hands, lady. That's okay. It's only Jake. Get him through the door, lady. Poor schmo. I know she don't smack him again. I didn't get him through the poor. Now the thing is with these contact lenses, they're like this big, and think about like these big things you have to force in there. Like you have to put the eye in and force these big contact lenses right in there, so it'd be painful, and then you can't see much of shit. Like you can't see much of shit in those contact lenses. That's why if it seemed like Bruce Campbell was walking around like a blind man, because he technically was. That's why he did like the screen door. He's like, fuck off, just leave me alone. And the funny and ironic thing about this scene is that she's dragging him all the way to ultimately his death. Like she keeps dragging him, and when she puts him down, it's to the place where by the doorway to the cellar, he just dragged down and killed. By the way, I recommend the Blu-ray to this. If you're at all a fan, the Blu-ray is easily worth it. It carries over the features like the audio commentary with Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi and Scott Spiegel, Greg DiTerro. One of the funniest, most entertaining commentaries out there. Plus, it has a really good documentary where they interview pretty much everybody. Except, I don't think Sam Raimi does an interview. I don't think he does. But Bruce Campbell and the cast and Greg Nicotero and a whole lot of people work on the production does interviews. See, just dragged all the way down. And then remember I said they wanted to avoid red blood, so they used different colored bloods. Like you had green. Now this, I mean, technically it's red, but you could tell it's not. It's almost pink. Like this is almost pink. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it doesn't. It's not like real blood red, is what I'm getting at. And it seems softer, like a pink. I think there are also times where it's blue. Like I think when Ash is hitting the creature at the end with the chainsaw, I think blue stuff comes out, blue blood. Oh, you have this little necklace thing given to him by his girlfriend. Which I think that was in the first movie as well. 'Tis in the first movie. Yeah, now that I remember, the reason this necklace was in the first movie was there's supposed to be this gag where you see there's like a glass as the necklace. It was going to refract light, and then it was going to burn the book, and that's when Ash realizes, oh, I could burn the book, and maybe that'll stop it, because it seemed to react to heat. Because again, the light gets to the glass, and refracts, ref, refracts the light into the book, and they didn't do that, so they just had this necklace, which they carried over in this. It's funny how long it takes her to realize he's not possessed. Like, he tells her right there that thing is gone. And he looks normal. He doesn't look like a demon, but then this right here. Here I'm saying, I'm alright. Like, we're already an hour and 5 minutes in, and even with the end credits, we have like 18 minutes left. 18 minutes left with the credits. Take them away, what, 15 minutes left? Ah, yes, here we get the scene. I remember when I first saw this, I went, oh, this is how he got that chainsaw hand. Which was only used in, like, the beginning of Army of Darkness, which pissed me off. I like Army of Darkness, but I think when I first saw it, that did piss me off. It was the poster, it was the cover, it was the VHS cover. Oh, the chainsaw hand, what? Where is it now? But yeah, this is badass. Total, one of the iconic moments at all the Evil Dead films is this. Double barrel shotgun, saw the front end, so you get a bigger, wide blast. And then 80s badassness. Groovy. I love it. And also, I like the look of his face with all the cuts. I know that sounds weird, but like the cut here on the top and bottom lip and the certain cuts they have, it does showcase he's gone through a war. He's gone through a battle, and like badges of honor, and it just makes him look like a cool, badass hero. All these cuts on his face. And this day and age where you get hit like 50 times and there's no bruise. But I like the Fast and Furious films, some of them. But like, look at Fast 5. How many times The Rock and Vin Diesel punch each other in the face in their fight scene in Fast 5? And then there's like barely anything on the face. But I mean, fuck, the new trailer came out and they're going to like go into space or some shit or whatever the fuck. I don't even want to talk about it. I know I like a lot of stuff that's cartoonish, but Fast and Furious should just end. F9. Take an F5 tornado out of here, please. Now we have Ash looking for the pages. Now there is a moment during the sequence where they reverse the film, and because of that the chainsaw looks like it's on the left hand when it should be on the right, because some kind of reverse thing. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what moment it is. There it is. See, he picked up with his right hand. See, he picked up the page with his right hand. And now he's got his left hand. So there, that's what it is. It was that moment. Because he's going and he picks up with his right hand. So no, that wouldn't be they said in the commentary that wouldn't, now that I think about it, that wouldn't really do it were reverse of hands. It seemed like they just made a mistake, and maybe they just made a simple mistake. Shit, wrong hand. And they said, ah, fuck it, we'll just go with it. Because no matter what, that still be your right hand. If you're facing this way, no matter what, this will be your right hand, no matter how you reverse it. So, this is, yeah, I think they just screwed up, and maybe that was the excuse they gave on the commentary just to hide the fact. But yeah, he picked up with his right hand, even though that's supposed to be the chainsaw hand. That one bit. Which I believe I did take that out of my fan cut. Again, it's on BitChute. Maybe I'll link it down below, but I'll just be warned, it's a very messy... Don't expect much. And then BitChute's a pain in the ass. When you use BitChute, you pretty much have to click on it, and then you have to wait for it to load up. It could take a matter of 5 minutes or so. Yeah, BitChute is not the best. I mean, it'll let you upload it for the most part, but it's not really the most... It's slow. It's very slow. But yeah, so yeah, if I remember, I'll put it down below. If you want to watch it, click on it, and when you wait for like 5 minutes or so until it loads up the play. Because it's not as fast as YouTube. Not close. That's another thing, like, I thought those steps were already broken, but then he went through the steps again. Maybe not. Again, if you go into these films with continuity, you will lose your fucking mind. Yeah, there you see the ass of Henrietta is ripped. And then coming up here, you'll see like a big drop of sweat coming from Ted Raimi's ear. Because of all the sweat built up. I think this is up close. Yeah, it goes by quick, but she has the head down like this, and you see sweat just pouring down like this. Now we get the battle between Ash and the demon. I didn't, just one of those few times you get Ash fighting something with the chainsaw. I didn't like this personality with like monkey sounds, or chimpanzee sounds, or ape sounds, whatever sounds it is. Again, it just... Also want to give credit to Joe LaDuca doing the music. I thought he did a really good job. Joseph LaDuca, who did the music for the other Evil Dead films. There you go. Arm number 1, arm number 2, and a fuck you, yeah! Cut the motherfucker's head off. And this is one of the best parts. I get the insanity is great. Swallow this, bitch. He doesn't say bitch, but there you go. Swallow this. That's just so fucking satisfying. It's like, yes. Okay, that's the guy right there. There you go. See, that's Ash. To me, this is Ash. And I would say this is technically my favorite version of Ash. I like Ash in Army of Darkness. I like him in Evil Dead 1. But this, the in-between, where he's got the shotgun, he's got the chainsaw, he has a fun line like swallow this and groovy, but he's still a decent guy just trying to do the right thing, and he cares. That's the thing in Ash vs. Evil Dead. They went so far in the comedy that, oh, this guy died, oh well. That's what it seemed like a lot of times. Because, well, Ash acts that way, it's funny. I'm like, that's not Ash to me. The Ash in Army of Darkness, even in this movie, would not act like he does in Ash vs. Evil Dead. To me, it's like the script, like they had another inclining of who Ash is, I guess, compared to me. Maybe whether that's Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, all together, they're... Because Sam Raimi directed the pilot, and then Bruce Campbell, in interviews he said that's how Ash is. I'm like, I get it. You're playing the character. I disagree with your direction of it. That's just my opinion. You know, instead of explaining it to him, you could have said it already. I did. You could have recited it for the past 5 minutes, lady. I just guess you could say this is the evil in its physical form. Got the Reed Richards hair now, with the gray on the side. He does kind of look like Reed Richards from Fantastic Four. And nowadays, it'd probably be a risky thing to kill, your female character like this. Because you'd be afraid of being labeled sexist, because a lot of stupid fucking people. But you look, I mean, Sarah Berry did a good job. I liked her character. Even while being stabbed in the back, she's able to recite in order to do the right thing. And help Ash and save him, and that's courage, and it's like... I swear the last line she says sounds like Evil Dead. Evil Dead! Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. Again, always nice to see him use the chainsaw. I think this is where he did like the blue blood. Yeah, see, it's like blue. I didn't for the ratings board. Not that it mattered, they still said nope. So they had to release it unrated. Then Joe LaDuca did a good job with the score. I mean, in the third one, yeah, it was a bit more Danny Elfman. But there's Joe LaDuca as well. It's weird seeing the blue on him. It's like, why you got paint on you? But again, when I saw, I'm like, oh, okay. This is the beginning of Army of Darkness. Like, some of these scenes are the same. Which is weird, like, with Army of Darkness, they could use some stuff, but not. Because I swear this stuff is the same as Army of Darkness. This part here, especially this part coming up where, stop it. How do you stop it? Like right here, boom. Like that looked almost the same as the beginning of Army of Darkness. If that's the case, how come they were able to use this footage, but not, other stuff? I don't know. And then this whole like 2001 Christmas light thing. And then again, an ending that's not really consistent with the beginning of the next film, because he lands and then he destroys a creature that's flying. which I tried to incorporate that in my edit because I thought that was pretty cool and badass. He shoots this creature, blows his head off. But again, I did not do a good job with it, so it's very clunky. Very clunky, but I liked that moment. At least I think it's still in there. No, never mind. I put it in when he gets out of the pit. Like when he gets out of the pit and he shoots the creature with the chains on it, and then he turns and shoots this thing. Because then I quickly put it in. Yeah, when he gets out of the pit after he killed the creature in the pit, and near the beginning. And then I added this bit, which again is not really consistent, but I'm like, well, neither is a lot of this franchise, so I just like him blowing this creature's head off and still wanted to keep it. I'm like, well, that's when he gets the shotgun, so I just put it in there. Yeah, it's not consistent, but whatever. If someone does a better job, I would love to see it, sincerely. But yeah, this is Sam Raimi, the director. Come for the skies, delivers for the terrors of the nights. You have Sam Raimi, the director himself. And this is what he wanted for the second film, but now became the third film. Whereas this film came out and did okay at the box office, and extremely well on VHS. And then Sam Raimi, he would do films like Darkman, and had to deal with Universal. Where he produced films for Universal, including Hard Target, because if you look at the credits of Hard Target, an interesting name appears. Yes, Sam Raimi as well as Robert Tapert, two of the producers. Well, the director and the producer of Evil Dead films were executive producers on Hard Target. Again, just right there, above my finger. Which Universal was high on Sam Raimi at this point. They said, well, if John Woo doesn't make it, you go on and direct it. And he's like, he'll do it. I think he also produced Time Cop. I think at one time Sam Raimi wanted to work with Van Damme. I think Sheldon Lettich tells the story, but I don't know what all happened. Maybe Van Damme and his drug days, sadly. I would love to see that now. Sam Raimi and Van Damme work together. I think that'd be worth a shot. Special makeup effects unit crew, Berger, Kurtzman, Nicotero, before they were TMB. But yeah, Evil Dead 2. I like the first Evil Dead. But Evil Dead 2 is a classic. Sculptor Steve Wayne. That might be the same Steve Wayne that directed Drive with Mark Dacascos and Guyver 2 Dark Hero. But yeah, just the creativity, the energy, the imagination, what they're able to do to put so much stuff and effort into a low budget with the camera work. Yes, some of the effects, a lot of the effects are not great, but there's heart to them. There's heart to them. And that goes a long way. And there's charm to them. As well as, Bruce Campbell does a good job. There you go, Fake Shemps, an ode to the Three Stooges. But yeah, the music score is well done. And just the sequel to The Ultimate Experience in Grueling Terror. Da, 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 da. Yeah, that's a really good piece of score right there. Joe LaDuca. But yeah, very fun film. Like I said, creative as all hell. ingenuity very much up there. It showed what you could do in the 80s if you put your mind to it. Don't hold back. Go for it. No, no matter what the budget is. And just to show, well, to tell what's the on the features. If you don't have the Blu-ray, you have the commentary from old. You have a making it from back in the day, the gore, the merrier. You have a trailer, shooting location with filmmaker Tony Elwood, behind the scenes of Evil Dead 2. I think this is footage Greg Nicotero had. And then Swallowed Souls, the making of Evil Dead 2, which is an hour and 38 minutes long. The making of is longer than the fucking movie. And yeah, you had Ted Raimi, you got Sarah Berry, you got Bruce Campbell, you got the girl who played Bobby Joe. Like, this is an insanely filled to the brim documentary. An hour and 38 minutes. Yeah, you got Scott Spiegel. And they go through every nook and cranny of making Evil Dead 2. You know, a lot of behind the scenes footage, getting the crew together, the cast together, all that stuff. Again, anyone who's a fan of Evil Dead 2, you definitely need to check out this documentary. And Dan Hicks, may rest in peace. Oh, maybe I can get this guy's name, because I feel bad for not saying it. If they show his name. Sorry, now I'm just lollygagging around. I hope they show his name. See, now it's going to bother me. Yeah, Ted Raimi, Bruce Campbell, Sarah Berry. There we go. It is Richard Domere as Ed. Richard Domere. Okay. Sorry, it bothered me, and I didn't think it would take that long. But well. With that said, thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you guys later. Bye-bye.